What's going on, guys? My name is Altroff, and today I want to talk to you about macro photography without a macro lens. Pause for dramatic effect. Okay, and roll intro. Wait, stop. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have noticed how, as of 2019, if you've been following me, that I've got this kind of episodic thing going with my videos on YouTube, but I was thinking maybe I can separate it a little in the sense that maybe I would keep this episode thing just for vlogs and then maybe make a separate intro for my tutorials and such, seeing as how I've been doing a lot more of that lately. What do you guys think? Would that be a cool idea? If so, drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. That being said, macro photography without a macro lens. Some of you might be looking at me like, you can't do that. What? I thought you needed a macro lens to shoot macro. While others might be looking at me like, what the f is macro photography? Let me explain. Basically, macro photography is photography that's really close. The word macro technically means large scale, when in reality, macro photography is more about the small scale. But it still makes sense because you're making the small big in the photo, kinda. Every lens has a minimum focusing distance. So no matter how far you might be able to zoom with that lens, you can only get so close to the subject to get it in focus. So you might be shooting with a lens that maybe zooms to say 200 millimeters. But in order to focus on a subject, you need to be, say, 3 feet away from that subject. So you can't zoom in 200 millimeters into somebody's pupil and get all the details in their eyes. You can't do a digital zoom after the fact in post, but the issue with that is once you zoom it in digitally, you start to see the pixels and the grain and whatnot. So if you have a macro lens, you can get really crisp and sharp images. A macro lens eliminates that minimum focusing distance. Well, there is still technically a minimum focusing distance, but how close do you need to be, you know? You can get really close. I'm talking you can get right up in there and take a photo with a dope macro lens. Now, macro lenses can be expensive. They can go anywhere from say $300, $400, $500 easily into 4 digits, which nobody really wants to deal with. So today I want to talk to you guys about a cool trick to not have to spend that kind of money and still get some super sharp, crispy, awesome, super fuego macro photos. Check it out. What you do is you take your camera and you remove the lens. Now, before doing so, keep in mind your camera sensor, that thing behind the mirror in there, is extremely sensitive. So when you do this, do so with caution. Don't do it anywhere with a lot of dust or debris that's going to be blowing in there and potentially damage your sensor, because if that happens, your camera's busted. That's just a fact. So do so at your own caution. But so long as you're not dumb, or just so long as you're being careful, you can take your lens and actually just flip it and hold it up to the camera, the reverse side like this, and you can get really close to your subjects. Now, in doing so, you lose communication with the camera and the lens. The back of the lens has these little metal pin connectors here that attach to the inside of your camera there, and that's where the data transfer happens. So when you adjust your aperture or you're dealing with your autofocus and such, it's happening through these little metal connectors. Now, obviously, the front of the lens does not have that. So when you're doing this, you have no way to control your aperture or your autofocus or focus in general for that matter. The only thing you can do is hold the camera as steady as you can, get close to a subject, move it further away or closer to the subject to get it in focus. Now, the trick with this is this lens, for example, is 17 to 40 millimeters. So if I have the lens zoomed out to 40 millimeters and I flip it back over and then get into a subject, it will be macro. Technically, it will be very close to the focusing distance, will be very shallow, if you will, and I'll get a dope photo. But if I zoom it out to 17 millimeters, which is the wider angle, and then flip it over, then I can get really close in there. So the wider your angle on the lens, the closer you can get to your subject for the photo. They also have these cool things called reverse mount macro adapter rings, which is this cool little device that you screw onto the camera just like you would a lens, and then the other side of it has basically a filter thread that you can screw your lens on as if it was a filter, and it would hold it in place just like that. So you'd essentially have a macro lens on your camera, but you still don't have the middle connectors for the aperture. So be mindful of that. And if you want to get a little deeper into it, you can even buy extension tubes that you can put the adapter on, then the extension tube, then the lens, and get even closer to your subject, which is pretty cool. And those cost like 10 bucks, so they're pretty affordable. I'll actually drop a link down below where you guys could buy some if you like. That being said, guys, this was another quick video for camera hacks and such. If you liked it, make sure you click that like button, consider subscribing, and drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you guys think I should remake the intro for my tutorials. And if you guys go ahead and experiment with this, I'd love to see what you guys come up with. So go ahead and find me on Instagram and Twitter at also Alex Rolf, and tag me in any broke man macro photography you guys might be doing out there. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. I got a thing for Twizzlers.